Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Beat podcast, recorded live from Health in Las Vegas. Today, I have the privilege of hosting an outstanding leader in healthcare. Her name is Barry Kowal. She is Senior Vice President, Development Operations and Portfolio Management at Regeneron. Such a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Great to be here. Yeah. How's the meeting going for you, Barry?
So far, so good. I was here last year, and there are a number of new things that are happening here and new attendees, so it's great.
Awesome. All right, good. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it, and I was looking forward to our time together. Let's get started. One of the things that we are wanting to really know more about in these conversations is reimagining care delivery, especially when it comes to access and outcomes, especially for historically underserved populations. Talk to us about what Regeneron is doing in that space.
Sure. So we have a number of initiatives that are aimed at both improving the ability to reach out to more patients in different communities, both for the delivery of clinical trials, but also for healthcare in general. Some of that we're undertaking by doing more education, having media campaigns, websites, education in general to patients themselves, but also to physicians, just to ensure they understand our science, they understand our capabilities from a clinical trial perspective, what's available to them. So getting the word out there to the individuals who are interested in their own healthcare, but also to physicians who treat them in multiple communities around the country and really around the world.
The education piece is really a critical one.
It's actually one of the missing pieces, I think, is really educating individuals who are trying to seek their own care, becoming their own advocates. But I also see a real need, and we as Regeneron see a real need with the physicians themselves to understand if they're not clinical trialists, what does it take to have their patients be part of a clinical trial? What information is out there? How can they preserve the patient relationship that they have, but also provide an opportunity for their patients?
Yeah, like understanding how to tap into the system, how to access these types of programs. Many don't know.
That's right.
And it's a big opportunity. And so, okay, there's so many ways to get information out there. And there's also a lot of technology. With so many emerging technologies shaping the future of health, how do you decide which innovations to invest in? And how do you measure their real world impact?
That's a loaded question, but I'm going to try and answer it because I could spend all day walking around health and look at so many different opportunities for different technology, automating the things that we do. So I'll start by saying I don't know that there's a best way to pick the most innovative and best technologies. I think the things that I think are important and that really matter to us are things that aren't incremental. They essentially help the whole cycle time and supply chain work and essentially end to end.
Yes.
So that we can actually create our protocols, find new targets for discovery, actually then operationalize the work we do, have clinical trials throughout the world, and then bring quality data internally to make good decisions on whether we go forward with certain molecules or not. And then ultimately have the process be really streamlined, getting it to the regulators so that we can get patients' medicines faster. But the reality is a lot of the technology is great. It just isn't interconnected. So interconnectivity is really important, and end-to-end solutions that, or at least connectivity with end-to-end solutions, that if there's something really unique or really ahead of the rest of the industry, because the pharma industry is very slow to adopt new technologies because of highly regulated we are. But I think the time really is now because there are so many opportunities, especially with AI, to do things differently, to capitalize on big data. We're a company that actually lives by the data that we produce and by all the patient data, the genetics data, the proteomics data, all different types of data. So that's really, to me, the foundation is having the data necessary to make the innovative technology even better.
Yeah, just having something that could get you from end to end, lots of point solutions, but at the very base of it all is clean data, right? Having the right data to do the right things.
That's right.
Yeah, no, that's such a great point. And I think it's clearer than ever with so many organizations wanting to leverage this accelerator, which is AI. The data has never been more important.
That's right. I think that's one of the things that we look at and why we started a genetics center years ago, to try and sequence more people, to get more genetics data as part of the broad EMR data that's out there, to really put all the pieces together to be able to then make a better predictive analysis as to which patients are going to derive the most benefit from the treatments that we have. What are the best molecules and how do you use them in the clinic? So all of that data being foundational to essentially what we do. And so we have a host of interest in trying to produce more data. You can never actually have too much data,
right,
but also partner with a lot of healthcare systems to ensure that the data they're collecting, it's usable in a structured way to actually be able to determine what the next best thing will be. And also so that we can use AI and other technology to actually produce some insights that are valuable.
Totally. Yeah. And there's a lot of standardized things that are coming up with TEFCA and a lot of organizations and things happening that will get us there faster. Let's look ahead. So 3 to 5 years from now, what bold bet is Regeneron making that you believe will truly transform the healthcare experience?
Yeah, I think personalized and preventive medicine is the next wave of where everybody's really looking to provide the patient with the information they need, provide the physicians with the information they need to make the best decisions about their healthcare. And ultimately, it goes back to what we were just talking about, having the data to inform you. And so that really is where we're making a bet in one way. But I would also say we're leaning into the AI infrastructure to make sure that if we can, and we have an amazing research engine, if we could continue to produce the molecules at the pace that we are, that we can actually make the development phase much faster. Development takes a long time. We also need the regulators to come on board with us and make their processing time a lot faster. But if we can reduce the cycle times from years, any drug takes about 10 years from concept to get it to a patient, maybe more. If we can reduce that to a year, it's doable. And look at COVID.
Exactly. I was just going to say
we
that.
did it.
Yeah.
Why can't we do it again, just at scale?
Yeah. No, I love that. And I love big thinking. And I think it's possible. It's more inspiring to think about that 1 year cycle versus 10, 18 years.
Yeah. I think I've been in this industry over 30 years, and I've seen a lot of drugs come to the market, help people and their caregivers in the millions, but it takes a long time. And I started in the industry, we were talking about gene therapy. And actually, this is 35 years later, we're just seeing the first gene therapies come to fruition. So it tells you how long that some of this really unique science takes to actually get to done. But I think now we have an opportunity to change that.
I love that. I do too. And folks, the opportunity is happening right in front of us. The ecosystem needs partnerships and players that are going to do this together. And so, Barry, you're here at Health to talk about the critical importance of clinical trials and how to design trials that work better for patients and sites. What makes this such an important area of opportunity right now?
Yeah. So I talked a lot about data. I talked about AI, but at the end of the day, I can use data, I can identify patients and say that's the type of patient that can go into the trial that might be the right patient for this drug, but actually getting those patients to be willing to be in a trial and getting the sites to be able to have the capacity to actually enroll patients is, I think, the fundamental issue that we have to solve for. Because there's no such thing really as fully decentralized trials. There's a lot of procedures people have to undergo. There's a lot of collecting of data that has to happen, that some of that can be virtual, but not all of it. And so we have to equip sites with the ability to have the scale to do this, and healthcare systems are not set up that way.
Right.
So one of the things that we need to think about is just how we reduce the complexity of the trials that we have. We try to answer a lot of questions, and there's times when that's important to do, and it may be the key to the success at Regeneron. We have a low attrition rate because we do ask a lot of important scientific questions that may be important in a trial. It may even be important for the next molecule. But we're trying to balance that with how many things do you ask? How much can you do with a patient? How much can the sites manage?
Right.
And my hope is that if you reduce the complexity, you couple that with better technology, more interconnectedness, that you streamline the whole process.
I love that. And you do the education, right, to help the entire process move along much faster.
Better acceptance, I think, of the fact that clinical trials are a good option, a good healthcare option. And I think too few individuals know about it. It's something like 4 to 7% of people in the world and enter in a clinical trial. That has to change if we want. I can have wonderful technology and a ton of molecules, but we have to test them.
Right.
And we have to make sure they're safe. And we have a lot of safeguards around that. But the reality is I need people and the willingness. And ultimately, I think the experience is a good one. It's just a matter of ensuring we provide access to more diverse populations, more individuals who would be willing, and some of those who don't even have access to the right healthcare, that these things would be a tremendous option for people, in addition to the fact that it helps the whole system move forward.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love your vision. And what are some of the most exciting shifts you're seeing in how clinical trials are being designed today?
So we did some data collecting with Tufts University and looked at how complex are our trials. And we actually did that 2 years ago. And what we've done is really streamline some of the lab tests we're collecting, some of the unused data that we know when we finish a trial. What didn't we look at? Yeah. What wasn't that important? What are the takeaways? And so we're trying to use data to inform us as well, to say, what was the regulator's opinion on this? And how do we look at all the various things that regulators weighed in on, and what was important, what wasn't? So really trying to streamline and asking the regulators to come on board with us to do some of that, because some of the things we put in trials are direct asks to either get patients in a certain population, to ensure that we have certain testing that's done. And sometimes that can be a challenge in order to move things rapidly through the process.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys are questioning the process, using data to validate what's working, what's not, and you're not doing it in a vacuum.
We also get a lot of the investigators and the physicians, the key opinion leaders on board as well. We want to understand the standard of care and really the nuances around the standard of care. We usually can look it up and understand and have all the information about what's the most prevalent drug used out there or where is an unmet need, but actually talking to the people who are dealing with patients day in and out, that's a big insight that we take into account as we design trials as well.
That's great. Definitely commend you guys for doing that. Just when you get to a point where, hey, we've got this figured out, get better. And that's right. You get better.
That's right. There's no shortage of a desire to be innovative. And I'd always say we're a very innovative company, Regeneron, in the way we've evolved our research engine over 35 years. But the reality is we need to get more innovative in the development space. And I think that's what the possibility is now, is to build upon the innovative work that we've already done in the research space, in the development space, and even in the commercialization space, reaching patients, reaching doctors, sharing the science. We're trying to work across that whole continuum to make sure that we have a voice.
Brilliant. Sounds like you guys are doing a great job. So health brings together such diverse mix of leaders across healthcare. What conversations do you hope that spark here about the future of clinical trials?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. And I came to this conference last year and really left feeling like there's a real need to tap into a lot of the audience that's here. So my hope is that both the healthcare community as well as those in the technology communities are aligning with pharma to actually do all the work that we just talked about. Collect more data, partner on the patients, on the information that we share collectively. I had a lot of conversations today about combining our electronic health records to the data we collect in clinical trials, and actually not just connecting them, but actually building them differently so that they actually, at the forefront, collect the information that we need so that we're not doing all the work we have to do in the background. So I think connecting the dots between all the infrastructure that exists in healthcare all the way through to delivery of healthcare and how companies go about it. I think one of the things we spent a lot of time on the last few years was digital biomarkers. So you can see all the headwear, the glasses, the rings, all the things that everybody is using to measure their aspects of their health. How do we employ some of that data where possible, so that I know it's happening more in the healthcare space, and given that clinical research is a little more controlled, I'd say it's been a challenge to get it to a point where you're able to get rid of the noise. But even real world data has become a big tool for us too, just knowing what goes on in the real world and trying to collect some of that. So I think more to come there. There's definitely possibility.
Yeah, that's great. I really appreciate you sharing the vision, the work that you guys are up to, not just on the strong spot of research, but you're strong in getting stronger spot of development and delivery. It's apparent that Regeneron's all in on making healthcare better, more accessible for everyone. Just where can people reach out to learn more?
So Regeneron.com is a great place to go to. Our website in general has a few places, right? One of them is on our clinical trials. So if people want to understand, we have a very easy way to go in and you can put anything in there and it'll tell you what trials we have. If you put the word lung in there, it'll tell you about our trials that all have to do with respiratory diseases or cancer or any of those things. And so people who are interested in clinical trials are there. Our pipeline is there. Our science is outlined. So everything's there. And you can reach out to many of us. There's a MedInfo line. So there's lots of different ways to get in touch with the right people at Regeneron.
Beautiful. And that's the case for both providers and patients.
Yes, that's right.
Outstanding. So there you have it, folks. A great way to get in touch. We'll leave that in the show notes for you. Just a phenomenal time with Barry Kowal, just an incredible leader at Regeneron. She's the Senior Vice President, Development Operations and Portfolio Management. Just such a pleasure to have you here, Barry.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
It's my pleasure.